This narrative is called My Cheating Fiance's Friends Physically Attacked Me After I Refused to Marry Her, so I pressed charges and sent them all to jail. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's video, I could really use your support. We've noticed a decline in the channel's growth, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and enables us to continue delivering amazing content. Your support truly means a lot, so let's keep growing this channel together. Thanks so much. Now let's get into the video. For privacy reasons, I'm posting this anonymously since some aspects are still part of ongoing legal proceedings, and my main account is easily traceable. This entire situation is honestly unbelievable, and I still struggle to wrap my head around the fact that it happened to me. What began as a simple engagement ended with 3 people in state prison, 2 on probation, my ex potentially facing jail time, and her lawyer boyfriend possibly getting disbarred. Just typing this feels surreal. Here's some background so you can understand how we ended up here. I'm a 31-year-old man, and I met my ex-fiancée, who's 29. Let's call her Katie, about 4 years ago at a sports bar I managed. I know. A manager at a sports bar isn't exactly the most glamorous job, but I actually love it. I started as a bartender right after college with a business degree that I didn't really end up using. I worked my way up, and now I run one of the top locations in our chain. We do well, have great regular customers, and my team actually enjoys working there, which is rare in this industry. Katie, on the other hand, was a highly successful real estate agent. You know the type, posting those just sold another $1 million property updates on LinkedIn every week. She came in one night with a group of high school friends, all of them successful by societal standards. There were 2 corporate lawyers, a doctor, a dermatologist, a finance executive, and a marketing director from a tech company. They were celebrating one of their birthdays and spent around $600 on drinks and appetizers. After that, Katie started coming in regularly during my shifts, and we hit it off. She loved that I could make her laugh, and I was impressed by her ambition. Her friends, though, looking back, raised some red flags. They'd make comments about my job like, "It's nice that you're content with where you are," or "Have you ever thought about corporate management?" But when you're falling for someone, you tend to overlook things like that. We moved quickly. Within 3 months, Katie was practically living at my place, and by the 1-year mark, we officially moved in together. I had a nice 2-bedroom apartment in a modern building downtown. Not super fancy, but it had a doorman and security cameras, which becomes important later. The place was in my name since I had better credit and had lived there longer. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Katie was excelling in her career and actually made more than twice what I earned, which her friends loved to remind me of. But we were happy. I was advancing in my job, moving up to general manager, and then training new managers at other locations. Our families got along great, too. Katie's parents were this sweet older couple who treated me like a son, and my parents admired how driven she was. Last December, I decided to propose. I had planned a whole weekend getaway to a mountain resort 3 hours away with a private dinner overlooking the lake and a ring hidden in the desert. A bit cheesy, but she had always said she wanted an unforgettable proposal. She said yes, and we spent the following week celebrating and planning the wedding. We wanted it to be in October, before the weather turned too cold, but after the summer wedding rush. Katie's parents generously offered to pay for most of it, putting down $40,000 for deposits on a fancy venue, catering, flowers, and everything else. That's when things started getting odd. Katie's friends began inserting themselves into every decision regarding the wedding. The color scheme, the menu, everything had to be approved by them. The seating chart had to place them at the best table. It was exhausting. Their comments about my job also grew worse. They'd say things like, "Katie, are you sure you want the wedding at 6 p.m.? Won't he have to work?" Or, "Maybe we should go wedding dress shopping on a Tuesday, since that's probably a slow night for a sports bar." Katie never defended me. She'd either laugh it off or, worse, agree with them. I also noticed other changes. Katie started working later, always claiming she had these last-minute showings. She changed her phone password and started keeping it face down. Classic signs of cheating, right? But I trusted her. Or maybe I was just naive. At my bar, we had a regular customer named Sarah, not her real name, who came in for trivia every Wednesday with her coworkers. She was always friendly, tipped well, and never caused any issues. One Wednesday, she seemed off, constantly glancing at her phone and then at me. She barely interacted with her friends, which was very unlike her. After a break, she asked if we could talk privately. I assumed it was about a customer issue, so I took her to the small office near the kitchen. She looked uncomfortable, almost like she had some terrible news to share. She started by saying, "I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but I'd want someone to tell me if it were my relationship." Turns out Sarah's sister Jenny worked at a high-end salon downtown where Katie had been getting her hair done. Jenny overheard Katie talking to someone on the phone, calling them babe and baby, laughing and planning a weekend getaway. Jenny could hear everything since she was right there doing Katie's hair. It didn't take long for Sarah to pull out her phone and show me an Instagram story from a fancy restaurant. In the background, Katie was seen cuddling with a man in a suit, someone she'd told me was just a girls' night with her friends. The time on the story was 9:47 p.m. That same night and at 9:52 p.m., Katie had sent me a selfie with her friends, pretending to have a girls' night. I thanked Sarah and didn't know what else to say. She apologized repeatedly, saying she felt awful, but I told her she did the right thing. I covered her group's tab for the night and went back to work. I had 5 hours left on my shift, but my mind was spinning. Instead of confronting Katie immediately, I decided to do some investigating. At home, we had a shared iPad that we used for Netflix. Katie had logged into her iCloud account a few months earlier when her phone was being repaired, and she must have forgotten to log out. That night, while she was at her friend's house, I opened the iPad. It was full of messages between her and her ex, Michael, fake name. They had been secretly hooking up for months. The messages were explicit, and they weren't just about sex. They were planning their future together, mocking me and discussing how to handle their affair. Her friends were in on it too, coaching her on how to hide it better and making cruel jokes about my job. They even advised her to wait until after the wedding to leave me for a better divorce settlement. I took screenshots, saved everything to my email and Google Drive, and even photographed the iPad screen. It was clear she had been lying to me for months and all of her friends were involved in helping her. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in our living room reading through all the lies, trying to make sense of how someone could be so heartless. The next day when she came home, I confronted her with the evidence. She tried to act casual, but I handed her the iPad showing her the messages. I didn't even speak. I just handed her the iPad, already open to the messages with Michael. She tried to act casual for a few seconds, asking what I was showing her, but then she saw the dates on the messages and literally dropped the iPad onto the coffee table. You ever see someone's expression change completely? Like their whole facade just falls away? That's exactly what happened. She went from confused to panicked to furious in mere seconds. She started screaming about how I had invaded her privacy and had no right to look at her messages. Seriously, that was her concern? I stayed quiet, thank God for my bartender experience keeping me calm. I just kept scrolling through the messages while she freaked out. When I got to the ones from the night I proposed, I handed her the iPad again and read them aloud. She started crying, but not the kind of crying where you're sorry. It was manipulation crying, the kind where they try to make you feel guilty for catching them. She kept saying it was just a mistake, that Michael was her past and I was her future. Spoiler alert, according to the messages I'd read, I was her ticket to financial security until she could divorce me for a bigger payout. And here's the kicker. She actually tried to turn it around on me. She said I was emotionally unavailable because I worked nights at the bar and that she felt lonely. But Michael understood her better because they came from similar backgrounds. Then she dropped the bomb. If you hadn't gone through my private messages, we could have been happy. That's when I lost my cool, but I didn't yell. I was just definitely not calm anymore. I asked her how we could have been happy while she was letting her friends plan our wedding and divorce at the same time. I asked how many special moments she had ruined by texting him right after our engagement, holidays, and birthdays. There were messages to him within hours of every single one. She quickly changed her approach, faster than a politician during an election. Suddenly, it was all about the wedding deposits and what people would think. Not a single word about being sorry or loving me, just concerned with money and appearances. I told her the wedding was obviously off and gave her 30 days to move out, making sure to add that it was according to state tenant laws, since she had lived there long enough to have tenant rights, even though she wasn't on the lease. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't stupid either. Then she pulled out her phone. I figured she was calling her mom or something, but nope. She was texting her group chat, calling in the cavalry. "You're going to regret this," she said, typing furiously. "You have no idea who you're messing with." I actually laughed, wondering if this was some bad mob movie. I told her again that she had 30 days to move out and that I was going to stay at a friend's place to give her space to pack. I started packing a bag with clothes for work the next day. She was still typing away on her phone, crying, but there was a smirk on her face. That should have been my first clue that something wasn't right. I was almost out the door when she said, "They're already on their way. You should wait to hear their side of this." Now, I'm not a small guy. I work at a bar and know how to handle myself if things get rowdy, but something in her voice made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I decided to start recording on my phone, just in case. Thank God I did. I made it halfway to my car when I saw them pulling into the parking lot. All five of her friends in two separate cars. The lawyers, the finance executive, the doctor, and the marketing director. They weren't dressed for work anymore. More like they'd just come from the gym, and they did not look happy. So there I was, in the parking lot, facing five angry women getting out of their cars, with Katie watching from the apartment balcony. My phone was recording in my pocket, and thank God I had made that decision. I was trying to figure out whether I should go back inside or try to make it to my car before things got ugly. Then Hannah, the finance exec, started yelling at me, calling me an abusive piece of crap and saying they wouldn't let me hurt Katie anymore. The other four were spreading out around me, trying to block my way to the car and the building entrance. Rachel, one of the lawyers, pulled out her phone and started recording loudly, saying they were just there to help Katie get her things safely, that they didn't want any violence. Meanwhile, Jessica, the other lawyer, was texting and grinning like this was some kind of joke. The doctor and the marketing director were standing there, looking nervous but trying to act tough. I kept my voice calm, held my hands up where they could see them, and said, "I've given Katie 30 days notice, as required by law. I'm leaving for the night to give her space to pack. Please don't make this situation worse." That's when Hannah got in my face, screaming about how they knew all about my abuse and how they wouldn't let Katie stay another night with a monster like me. I kept backing away, still with my hands up, trying to calmly say that there were security cameras everywhere, and I was recording this. That's when I made a big mistake. I mentioned the recording. Rachel immediately shouted, "He's threatening to release private recordings of Katie. Get his phone!" That's when everything went completely crazy. Hannah lunged for my jacket pocket where my phone was, and I turned to keep her away from it. That's when Jessica grabbed me from behind and tackled me to the ground. I'm 6 feet 1 inch, and she's maybe 5 feet 4 inches. But she played rugby in college and knew what she was doing. I ended up on the ground with Jessica trying to hold me down while Hannah kicked me. Rachel kept recording everything but was yelling, "Stop resisting! Why are you fighting back?" Meanwhile, Maria and Ashley were just standing there, looking scared but doing nothing to help. I was doing everything I could not to fight back because I knew how this looked. Big guy versus smaller women. I was just trying to protect my head and not hurt anyone. Then Katie came running out of the apartment holding our entire kitchen knife set. Not just one knife, the whole block. She was screaming something about how I needed to learn my lesson and started handing knives to her friends. I won't lie, I started panicking. Jessica still had me in a hold, Hannah was kicking me, and now they had knives. I managed to free one arm, pulled out my phone, and hit the emergency SOS button. The iPhone feature that calls 911 automatically if you press the power button 5 times quickly. I started yelling, "The police are coming!" as loud as I could, hoping someone in the building would hear. Rachel, still recording, shouted, "No one will believe you." And then, out of nowhere, Hannah stabbed me. Actually stabbed me in the arm. It wasn't deep because I jerked away, but it was enough to need 12 stitches. There was blood everywhere, and that seemed to freak out Maria and Ashley. They started backing away. The next few minutes were a blur. I remember Katie screaming, "Finish it!" from behind me, and Hannah trying to stab me again while Jessica yelled, "Hold him still!" Then there were sirens, a lot of them. Suddenly, the parking lot was full of cop cars. Thank God one of my neighbors had called 911 too. The cops had guns drawn, ordering everyone to drop their weapons. Hannah and Jessica tried to run but didn't get far. Rachel kept recording until a cop tackled her. And the best part? Katie was standing there holding the knife block, screaming that I had attacked them and that they were just defending themselves. Meanwhile, I was bleeding all over the parking lot, clearly not fighting back, and everything was on at least 3 different cameras: my phone, the building's security, and Rachel's live stream. The next few hours were a blur. The ambulance ride, the emergency room, police interviews, and tons of photos of my injuries. Turns out, besides the stab wound, I had 2 broken ribs, a concussion, and basically looked like I had gone 10 rounds with a UFC fighter. But here's the real kicker. While I was in the ER, these idiots were at the police station, arguing with the cops about getting their phones back so they could delete personal stuff. Rachel, a lawyer, even said, "If you look at our group chat, it will be misinterpreted." The next few days after the attack were absolutely insane. The prosecutor couldn't have been more clear. This is the most straightforward case of premeditated assault I've seen in years. She had no idea how accurate her statement was. Meanwhile, Katie and her gang of lunatic friends were enjoying their time in the county jail. I later found out they were kept in separate cells because they couldn't stop trying to align their stories. Rachel, the first lawyer, kept demanding her one phone call as if she were in some TV drama. Jessica, the second lawyer, attempted the classic "do you know who I am" move. And Hannah, the one who stabbed me, apparently had a full breakdown when they confiscated her designer jacket as evidence, because it had my blood on it. Now here's the twist. Remember how I mentioned that Rachel had been recording everything? Well, it turns out she was live streaming it to their private Instagram group. The cops got a warrant for all their phones and social media accounts, and they found it all. Not just footage of the attack, but months of them scheming. The group chat turned out to be a goldmine. These so-called professionals had meticulously laid out their plan. Wait for Katie to provoke me, get me mad, record me defending myself, edit it to make me look abusive, file false domestic violence charges, get me arrested, and evicted from my apartment. Then they'd help Katie move in with Michael, her ex, while I was stuck in jail. They'd let the wedding date pass, have Katie file for divorce, using the edited videos to get a bigger settlement. They even mapped out filming angles and assigned roles. The best part? They used their work phones for this operation. These geniuses planned an assault while using their corporate phones to do it. But wait, it gets even better. Just 2 days after the attack, while I was still in the hospital, Katie showed up at my workplace, telling my staff and customers that I was abusive, that I had attacked her friends, and that everyone needed to know the truth about me. My assistant manager, shout out to Dave, recorded the entire thing on security cameras and called the cops. Katie repeated this 3 more times before the police finally arrested her for violating the emergency restraining order. Each time she brought different friends, like Maria and Ashley, who weren't in jail, to back her up. They filmed it too, probably thinking they were collecting evidence, but those videos ended up being used against them instead. Then Michael, remember him, the lawyer boyfriend, decided to get involved. This genius started sending me and the cops threatening emails. Full-on movie villain style. "You don't know who you're dealing with. I have friends in the DA's office, and this will all go away if you drop the charges." And he sent these threats from his law firm email. A licensed attorney threatening a victim and law enforcement from his verified work email. The DA's office was practically licking their lips when they got those emails. About a week after the attack, the high-powered defense lawyers showed up at the bail hearing, looking like they had just walked off a TV set, all confident and smug, talking about their clients' stellar reputations and community standing. The judge, an older man who looked like he might nod off during their speeches, perked up when the prosecutor started presenting evidence. They laid out everything: security footage from multiple building cameras, my phone recording, Rachel's live stream, the group chat messages, screenshots of them Googling how to stage self-defense, Michael's threatening emails, medical records showing defensive wounds, witness statements, the knife with Hannah's fingerprints and my DNA, and more. The judge's face, OMG. It went from sleepy to stone-cold fury in seconds. He set their bail at $500,000 each. Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel were considered flight risks and had to surrender their passports and wear ankle monitors since they had international accounts and properties. Maria and Ashley, who didn't participate in the actual attack, got lesser charges and lower bail, but still had to wear monitors. Katie was hit with conspiracy charges and had to surrender her passport too. Then about 2 weeks later, Ashley, who had been struggling ever since the attack, cracked. Her lawyer contacted the DA's office saying she wanted to make a deal. It turned out she had another group chat the others didn't know about, and in that chat, they were even more explicit about their plans. She had voice messages from Katie talking about how they'd practiced the attack at Maria's home gym, videos discussing how to make it look like self-defense, and messages detailing how they picked my apartment because they knew where the security cameras were and thought they could use that footage to their advantage. The best part? She had a video of them celebrating at a wine bar after Katie got engaged, planning how they'd help her get a better divorce settlement by setting me up. This was from the night I proposed while I was texting our families with the happy news. They were literally planning to destroy my life while I was celebrating with my family. The trial began in November, about 7 months after the attack. Those months were rough. Katie and her two friends, who weren't in jail, Maria and Ashley, kept trying to spread lies about me around town. They made fake social media accounts to post edited clips from the attack, tried to contact my employees to dig up dirt on me, and even showed up at my parents' house to tell their side of the story. My lawyer, provided by the DA's office since this was a criminal case, was this small woman in her 50s who looked like everyone's favorite aunt, but was terrifying in court. The first thing she told me was to document everything and avoid responding to any attempts at contact. So that's exactly what I did. Every fake account, every harassment attempt, every little thing went into a folder, making their case worse. The trial itself was surreal. Their defense strategy was something. They tried claiming they were protecting Katie from an abusive relationship, despite zero evidence of abuse, and that they acted in self-defense, even though they literally brought knives to attack me. Their lawyers tried to paint me as a violent, controlling boyfriend because I, apparently, caught their client cheating and asked her to move out. I had to testify for 2 full days. Their lawyers tried every trick to make me lose my cool, calling me a liar, suggesting I was the real abuser, and even trying to make me seem homophobic because I didn't want Katie hanging out alone with her friends while she was cheating. But bartending taught me how to stay calm in chaotic situations. I just kept telling the truth. The prosecution's case was a thing of beauty. They set up a huge TV screen in the courtroom and showed everything in chronological order. Security footage of them arriving at my apartment, my phone recording of the attack, Rachel's live stream showing them with knives, building security footage of the actual attack, police body cam footage of their arrests, video of Katie harassing me at work, screenshots of their group chats, Michael's threatening emails, medical photos of my injuries, the knife with Hannah's prints and my blood. But the real star of the trial was Ashley's testimony. She had taken the plea deal and laid everything out, telling the jury how they'd planned this for months, how Katie had been cheating even before the engagement, how they had practiced the attack, and how they specifically chose my apartment because they knew where the cameras were. The jury's faces during her testimony were priceless. This wasn't just some group of friends who got carried away protecting their friend. This was a calculated scheme to frame me, get me arrested, and help Katie scam me in a divorce. Then Katie took the stand to defend her friends. Big mistake. The prosecutor let her talk herself right into a confession. She started off tearfully saying how scared she was of me, despite no evidence of abuse, and how she'd lived with me voluntarily. Then when they showed her messages planning the attack, she got angry and started yelling about how I deserved it for looking through her iPad. The best or worst part? She accidentally mentioned that Michael, her lawyer boyfriend, helped her write the fake police report about me being abusive. The prosecutor's eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. After that, their defense fell apart. The jury deliberated for just 6 hours before finding them guilty. Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel, the stabby squad, were convicted of attempted aggravated assault, conspiracy, and a bunch of other charges. Maria was convicted of conspiracy and accessory charges. Ashley's plea deal gave her just probation since she testified against the others. The sentencing hearing was something else. The judge was not happy. He called it one of the most calculated and malicious cases he had seen in 30 years. He said their status as legal professionals made it worse because they knew what they were doing was wrong. Final sentences: Hannah, Stabby McStabberson, got 36 months in state prison, with no parole for 24 months and 5 years probation. Jessica, rugby tackle lawyer, got the same sentence. Rachel, Livestream genius, also got the same sentence. Maria, the nervous doctor, got 18 months of probation and 300 hours of community service. Ashley, who took the deal, got 12 months of probation for her testimony. Katie is still waiting for her separate trial but took a plea deal. More on that later. Michael, well, wait till you hear what happened to him. They all lost their professional licenses. The lawyers got disbarred, obviously. The doctor lost her medical license, and the finance exec lost all her certifications. Their fancy careers, reputations, and freedom, all gone. I'll update if anything happens. Thanks so much for your support and comments.